Welcome to the special call to meeting of the Danville City Commission for this evening, Monday, October the 25th. The year is 2021. I will call us to order. Make note that Commissioner Terry has had some surgery. We wish her well. I look forward to her joining us at the next commission meeting. With that, I will call us to order and ask that we be led in a moment of prayer by Commissioner Kevin Caudle.
Thank you, Mayor. Heavenly Father, we would like to thank you for the opportunity to gather here and discuss the issues of our city. We thank you that we can live in a city such as Danville, and we help us to remember we are all neighbors with a singular goal, and help us to conduct ourselves in a way that's pleasing to you. It's in your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I always like to invite a guest to come up and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. So, Magistrate Cullen, you want to come up and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please, sir? Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Show up at our meetings, we're going to put you to work. Commission, you've had the agenda since Friday. I assume it meets your approval, so we'll move right ahead with hear the public. This is the public's opportunity to take 3 minutes at the microphone with regard to any item that is on our agenda. And then there'll be an opportunity later on to do the same for any item not on tonight's agenda. So with that, the floor is open for anyone for 3 minutes. Seeing none, we will move right along. Item 1 is the approval of the minutes for the 2 previous meetings, October the 11th and October the 13th. Chair will entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve the minutes of October 11th and October 13th.
Thank you, Commissioner Holland. Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Atkins, discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Item 2 is the CFS Memorial Plaza Design Update. We look forward to seeing that. Mr. Newman, hi there.
Hey.
Floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Mayor, and Commissioners, Earl, Josh. Josh asked me to come on down tonight just to give you a brief, and I do say brief because we're in schematic design, but I want to show you some of the concepts that we've been looking at for the First Responders Memorial Plaza, which is next to the building that's under construction right now next to you guys, which, as you I'm sure know, is the new fire station for Danville. So my name is Dave Newman. I've been involved with the fire station since the beginning back, probably 2017 or before that when we were looking at the old station and trying to rehabilitate it. But my company is Joseph and Joseph Bravura, and you may have seen Jim Walters in our firm standing up here giving presentations on the master plan, which we've been involved with too recently. Let me give you a little background on this plaza. When we started out, we thought it would be important to provide a small space in front of the fire station for public use, and if possible, that could be a space devoted to honoring fallen heroes, first responders, fire, police, EMS, as well as displaying the artifact from the World Trade Center that Ron Scott had acquired back in 2019. In 2020, we obviously bid out the fire station and began construction on that. And this year, we hope to finish up the drawings for this small plaza and get that incorporated into the construction project
realize that.
itself. And then sometime next year, the goal would be to select a local artist to create a stand or podium for this artifact, and that would go somewhere in the plaza. So we've kept the plaza itself fairly open because we're not sure at this point, how much room this podium might take up or where exactly in the plaza it might be located. So from the get-go, when we were looking at little colored boxes here on how to program the fire station, Earl Coffey and I worked on, should there be a link between the fire station and City Hall? Yes, now there's a tunnel that joins those two buildings, but should there be kind of a symbolic link as well? And that really did dictate the location of the fire station and where the truck bay is versus the administration area and so forth. I thought it was important to, as best we could, link the two plazas, the upper City Hall Plaza and then this lower, smaller plaza. So here's the artifact that we obtained. It's tiny. It's only about a foot square, and it was sent to the city, and I hope we still have it. But anyway, the goal would be to somehow display this in a way that's appropriate and maybe adds a little more presence to it than just a small foot-by-foot square of steel. And I think if I remember Ron saying the only stipulation was it had to be open, it couldn't be enclosed in a box or something, so people could touch it. But you've probably, around the country in the last 20 years, you've probably seen displays such as this in many towns and cities that have acquired pieces, some very large beams and others very small. So we're combining both this piece and then again the first responders memorial pieces too. So this led to obviously a development of the site plan for the fire station and more detail and construction drawings, and the way the fire station went out to bid was just a grass area because we don't have a design at that point. And so that's the way it would look if we didn't do anything. It would just be a grassy area out there, and then that grassy area leads into a small courtyard, which you can see that we also like the way that integrated well with that side of the fire station where the office is, and then the dormitories up above look onto this small landscaped courtyard, which I think provides the firefighters with a pleasant space to look out on during their off hours. So zooming in, this is what we've developed to this point. And there's really, again, three components. One is the link between the upper plaza of City Hall and the lower plaza. So we've got the kind of sort of brownish color there, swoopy curves that are tiers of limestone blocks that would step down from the upper plaza. There's about 7 feet of elevation change between those two. But we have shown a stairway that would actually link the upper and lower, and then planters all around. And the way the tiers work, these limestone blocks, is they kind of taper down to a point out at the street. So you get a little bit of they step down and get smaller as you come towards the street. And at the end there, they're about 3'6" high off the ground, which provides just a little bit of enclosure there to the plaza. Although it's, and I'll say this probably again later on here when we get to the renderings, but I felt it was important, although this is a public plaza, to give some enclosure to the space and some sense of an overhead plane, because it is a reverent space. And once you're in there, you should be focused on the names and the piece from 9/11, really. The pavement there that you see is kind of mottled gray. It's fairly simple. We're not trying to create a pattern in there that would be difficult for the artist then to use. So it's kind of a rough, tumbled granite material that contrasts with the regular concrete that you see on either side there. And then that small oval in the middle represents kind of the scale of what a podium might look like. And then the last piece, which I'm excited about, is the first responders wall there. And what you can see is some arced lines there that represent this overhead plane. And let's flip to the sketches here. So you'll see some columns there. They're steel columns, and I call these kind of the unity columns. And what that meant to me was that, our first responders act together as a unit, and there's strength and togetherness, we'll say, during adversity. And so these columns are joined by a steel bar up there too. So everyone, that kind of symbolically represented people kind of holding on and grabbing one another and supporting each other. And down at the base of those columns are plaques where we put the names of the fallen folks. And there's two walls, one on either side. And those plaques, I see those as being a frosted glass. I brought a sample that I had in the office that would have the names etched onto the glass. I think we'll be working, of course, closely with Doug and Tony on how best to represent those names, whether with text or photos. And so as you step into the plaza off of the sidewalk there, you would walk into the plaza, and again, that gives you a great impression of the steps and the tiered limestone blocks there, stepping down into the plaza, and then these columns of unity that help enclose the space and allow you to focus on the piece in the center. Chance to look at that. So at this point, we've studied this composition from various angles coming down the street. This is the plaza column superimposed over an earlier rendering of the fire station. And so those limestone walls that I mentioned would be a perfect spot for signage. And I think it's a good size for even school groups to come in and discuss the history. And then just again, a couple of views looking down the street as you approach it. We didn't want the columns to be too big, so they don't overwhelm the fire station itself, but not too small, because we want them over your head just a bit. And then as you approach, again, you can kind of see the glass panels there too, and those again would be about the same height as that limestone wall, about 3'6". You can read them. And they could be added over time, is the intent there. But the actual size of them is really up to us here with the city and EMS and fire station and police to determine how they best want to display those names. So materials, like I said, we started looking at the glass panels, which are actually very strong. I've used those in another memorial in Louisville that have held up very well. The limestone blocks and the paver stones. So I'd show Josh this kind of random collection of some of the images that helped guide the design a bit. You can see those two on the right-hand side are actual examples of 9/11 steel pieces. And we both kind of like the one on the upper right there. Of course, we have a very small piece, but you could, again, kind of create a frame around the piece to create a little more presence to it. And those other images are kind of showing how glass can be used in a memorial. I've been to that one in the middle there in Washington, D.C. That's the Wounded Warriors Memorial. So those are very tall pieces of glass. We wouldn't have anything near that tall here. But at nighttime, you can see the effect of lighting, which we'd like to do. So really, that's what I have to present today. Moving forward, we'll conclude our design process and then get a full cost estimate done on the final drawings. We'll prepare the construction drawings and then most likely fold those into the contractor's work who's on site right now. Start construction, and then the next piece starts, and I'm going to be back down here on Wednesday for our regular monthly job site visit, but I'm going to meet with Nikki and Josh to kind of develop a plan of action for a competition. And we've done a few of those too. Most recently in Louisville, I've done one for a Vietnam memorial. And it can be time consuming, but it's planned out right. You get good results, I think. So ultimately, we'll have that artist create this podium and install it and dedicate it sometime next year. So that's it.
Dave, thank you. Any questions from the commission to Dave?
I like the seating area. How many people do you think can sit, or kids?
Well, what's nice about the tiers, it's sort of that amphitheater look that you see. And so the lower section, each tier is designed to be used for seating, so it's at the right height. Start there. And, so that first one could probably fit 20 people, I would say, around that first
Oh, wow.
band.
Okay.
And then the upper band, not as many because it kind of tapers back, so maybe 10 on that next tier. And then if you want to climb up to the upper tier, you could. So conceivably, yeah, you could get 30, 35 people up there, I would guess.
Well, lots of school groups
Yeah,
like to
that's
go
where
to
they-
the
that's
fire
where they would go.
station,
Right,
even
they
from
would.
other towns, so I think that'll be, I'm glad you included that, thank you.
This may be a Earl question. What's the timeline on completion?
So the plaza itself would be wrapped up, if they can get started soon here, along with the rest of the site work for the fire station, right? So as they're pouring the rest of the sidewalks and the concrete paving for the trucks and around the back and all that would be done at the same time. So that would wrap up again in the spring, April, May. And then the question becomes, the artist piece and how long that may take to get someone under contract and started for that. And we're hoping, that could take 6 months or so probably before that could be awarded. And depending on how intricate the piece is, it could take another 6 months after that, I suppose. But hopefully it's something fairly simple. And that wouldn't take too long to install, certainly, a couple months probably.
There was a couple that was commissioned by Center, I think, to do some kind of a steel or metal sculpture, and I sent her your way. You recall that? Did she come?
I'm not supposed to be back, I can call.
Okay.
Maybe I did, I would have to go back and look at it.
Okay. Well, I certainly don't know anyone that does that kind of work, and maybe somebody at the commission does.
We would have to advertise it. It wouldn't be someone that we could just solicit. We would have to advertise it and seek different vendors and seek proposals and work it out in that fashion.
Yeah,
So
but we're gonna need somebody, Dave, to help bring some names to the surface.
Yeah, and we're going to meet with the arts director on Wednesday, and I don't know her, but I'm hoping that she's done this process before, maybe, and so would have some format to use. Say we've done some, and this last Vietnam War Memorial competition was international. So we had to go have a social media platform that you had to pay to submit your applications. It was very, very complicated, but we were getting submittals from all over the world. So that did take some time to narrow it down, as you might expect. But if we just stay local here, I'm hoping some local artists will step up and take advantage of this opportunity. Center, yeah, there's plenty of artists there, I'm sure.
Anything else?
I like it.
Always good to see you, Dave. Thank you.
Yeah, Mayor.
Thank you,
Safe
sir.
travels going back.
Thanks.
Item 3 is a proclamation for Extra Mile Day, and I shall read that. Whereas Danville, Kentucky is a community which acknowledges that a special vibrancy exists within the entire community when its individual citizens collectively go the extra mile in personal effort, volunteerism, and service, and whereas Danville, Kentucky is a community which encourages its citizens to maximize their personal contribution to the community by giving of themselves wholeheartedly and with total effort, commitment, and conviction to their individual ambitions, family, friends, and community. And whereas Danville, Kentucky is a community which chooses to shine a light on and celebrate individuals and organizations within its community who go the extra mile in order to make a difference and lift up fellow members of their community. And whereas Danville, Kentucky acknowledges the mission of Extra Mile America to create 500 extra mile cities in America and is proud to support Extra Mile Day on November the 1st, 2021. Now, therefore, Mayor G. Michael Parris and the Board of Commissioners of the City of Danville, Kentucky do hereby proclaim November 1, 2021 to be Extra Mile Day and urge each individual in the community to take time on this day to not only go the extra mile in his or her own life, but to acknowledge all those who are inspirational in their efforts and commitment to make their organizations, family, community, country, or world a better place. Do I hear a motion for that proclamation?
Offer a motion to approve the Extra Mile Day proclamation.
Thank you, Commissioner Atkins. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Cottle, thank you. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Item 4 is a zone change recommendation at 1695 Lancaster Road. Mr. Hunter, the floor is yours.
Thank you. You should have the Planning Commission recommendation hopefully in your packet or in front of you. We met with the applicant back in July 21, and they filed their zone change the 1st of August, and the Planning Commission had a public hearing on August 25th, 2021, to rezone 50.432 acres located at 1695 Lancaster Road from agriculture and highway business to light industrial. After the public hearing had been conducted, the Planning Commission's vote was 8-0 to forward to the City Commission a recommendation of approval. There was no opposition present at the meeting, and your recommendation packet includes the items that were submitted or part of the Planning Commission's public hearing, which include the staff report, general development plan, or conditions as we know them, a master plan, a traffic threshold analysis, a geological analysis, a utility plan, and architectural exhibits as they relate to the house on the property. All that should have been in your packet. That was also considered at the Planning Commission meeting. I won't go into much detail in the staff report. It's a fairly lengthy report. I'll be glad to answer any questions you may have. The applicant was intended to be here this evening, but I believe they had a conflict, and I think there's other members here that may be part of their organization, but the property owner and their attorney aren't here tonight. So I'll try to answer any questions you may have of me.
Questions? Mr. Coffey, any input here?
Yes, thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. So
We took the recommendation from Planning and Zoning. City staff has reviewed the information provided relating to the zone change at 1695 Lancaster Road. Staff identified some concerns related to the full consideration of the comprehensive plan, specifically Chapter 7 of the plan. If you'll go to, what I have is page 17, which is figure 7.4 out of the comp plan, proposed collector streets. Traditionally, what we would see is that the proposed roadways are considered during the zone change process or during the development process of the property in question. Particularly if you look at the intersection of what is Lancaster Road and Stanford Road, which is about at 4 o'clock on your sheet going north to Lexington Avenue, there's a proposed collector street represented by a green line. That line traverses the property in question. And as we go back through and look at the recommendations, that street's not identified. That street is known as East Denville Connector for us. It is a roadway being designed currently by the Transportation Cabinet. The design is budgeted and is underway now. To that end, city staff has met with both the Transportation Cabinet, ourselves internally. We met with the applicant last week, and the applicant, we hosted a meeting with and participated with the applicant and the Transportation Cabinet. Subsequently, we have arrived at the conclusion that the best path forward at this point to get the proposed Transportation Cabinet roadway or Kentucky roadway included in the development plan is, as we described in our memo, which is staff recommends the commission to reject the zone change recommendation at this time, with the caveat that we do a de novo hearing with the specific intent of the developer gaining approval for the zone change by the additional condition, which I outlined in the memo as essentially, we have draft language, but I don't want to state that necessarily for the record, but we can read it for you because it's subject to change to any hearing that you would actually do, which is that the applicant would agree to accommodate the dedication of the right-of-way within this property based upon the final design of the roadway itself. And so further, what we'd like to demonstrate to the applicant is that we suggest that the city should support the applicant in their work with the Transportation Cabinet to make sure that adequate access from the proposed roadway to the property is gained at reasonable locations, certainly, and that we would, as we expressed to the applicant, certainly we would participate and encourage the roadway to be within a defined area within the property, which they ask to draft and propose as part of their submittal in the hearing, future hearing to be determined, and they suggested that be Exhibit A. That's not prepared yet, but it will be ready for and they would be part of the record during the proposed hearing. So simply put, that's the cleanest and simple thing we can describe. I don't really know what your questions might be, but certainly we'll take those at this time.
Floor is open for questions. And so de novo means what?
From the beginning, and really what it is, essentially you all do your own hearing, reestablishing all the evidence and allowing them the additional condition, allowing them to establish the additional condition that we've noted in our memo.
Is there a time frame for that?
Ashley was working on a schedule, I think, with Steve earlier, and got his feedback. There's an advertisement date. Go ahead. What do you have, Ashley?
Well, we have to advertise between the 7 and 21 days, so we're looking at doing the hearing on November 12th. That's what we're targeting.
A regular commission meeting?
Just it would be a special called hearing.
Oh.
Correct.
What date?
It'd be a single item, would be proposed as November 12th. It'd be a Friday.
Oh, Friday, okay.
Can I request that we, well, I was going to say do it late in the day, but it doesn't matter.
It'd be a single item agenda. It'd be specifically for this hearing. And then subsequently after that, assuming that the condition is added and the zone change is approved based on the evidence, you would have a first reading, a special call meeting the following week, and then the second reading would be approved at your regular meeting, the second meeting in November.
Is there any way to, I mean, I understand what we're trying to do. also understand what they're trying to do. Is there any way to accomplish that without going through the de novo?
I'm afraid not.
There is an option.
Well, there's an option, Steve, but with all due respect, there's an option that doesn't bind the developer. This is the only option that guarantees the developer's obligation that the city can deploy as a matter of fact, right? Like, it's the only real option at this point as a condition.
Can we hear what Mr. Hunter was getting ready to say, though?
I don't know if it's been used in this county, but there's a statute in the planning and zoning legislation, KRS 100-293, that allows cities or counties to reserve right-of-way corridors for future road projects, either coordinated with the state or if the city was going to do it, that allows the city to reserve that corridor in 5-year increments through a process that's independent of, for example, going through a zone change.
Correct, but then the problem with that process, and you're correct, but the problem with that process is you can't make it retroactive effectively. So we can't go back and carve that out. You have to make that a part of the approval process as it goes forward for development. So once it goes through the legal process, then that's when the right-of-way is established. So the cleanest and simplest way that still meets the 90-day window for the zone change consideration is just simply going through the de novo hearing, adding the condition, which the developer, the applicant agreed to the idea of the process because it still meets the original 90-day window.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't this pretty much the same requirement that we have with any kind of subdivision development, et cetera?
Normally, you see roadways developed during the planning and zoning process. Sometimes they're created in different stages. Particularly in this case, it's tied to the comprehensive plan, it's tied to the zone change. So ideally, with the condition, you're acknowledging that the developer will include that right away as they go, with a precise location to be determined at the time of the roadway final development.
I must be, I don't know, I'm a little thick, but I didn't really understand the whole, what Steve said versus what you said. I was having trouble piecing that together. That's my fault.
I would allow the Attorney Dexter to describe that from a legal standpoint, but as my understanding is, you cannot create a policy that retroactively requires them to comply with what your new rule is, right, in the future. So what you're trying to do is ensure that that right-of-way is preserved, the strip of land through the property is preserved for the roadway in the future. In lieu of that, if you approve the zone change, then you don't have any more leverage to make sure that happens.
Commissioner Caldwell, don't feel bad. I'm at the same point. I guess my question is this. I heard Mr. Hunter say that this was approved the 25th of August, 2021, unanimous by the Planning and Zoning Commission. How do we avoid coming to these types of standoffs, in a sense, a lack of a better term? Because the 25th of August to today has been a good little while, and then we're going to push it back to the 12th of November. How do we avoid this? How do we get staff and planning and zoning, when they have these types of hearings, to be working together so that we don't come up with these kinds of things after planning and zoning has made a recommendation to us? Is there a way to do that?
We voiced our concern that the roadway was not being considered prior to the planning and zoning hearing in August. Was disappointed to find out that it was not a condition on the zone change. I understand that the commission might not have wanted to do that. Since that time, we had to work with the cabinet. We tried to coordinate. That meeting with the transportation cabinet happened, I believe it was Monday of last week, right, Josh?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of some of the timing that got us to where we're at today is we finally got a proposed, real preliminary alignment from KYTC about 3 weeks ago. And then we met with KYTC and the property owner just last week. So we were kind of waiting on those things to happen so we could gain some more knowledge so we could write a condition that made sense And that also is helping the property owner develop that Exhibit A that's going to be part of that condition.
Right, and in planning and zoning's defense, I think they took the position that they would like to see more definition for the alignment, more affirmation that the alignment was going to be on the property before they felt like they could add it as a condition. And since that time, we've been able to get the Transportation Cabinet to commit to that corridor, quote unquote, which would have been probably used at the hearing for planning and zoning. But in lieu of that, we are sitting now with a proposed option. The applicant has acknowledged that. The language that we have included in our memo is from the applicant. And so simply doing the de novo hearing is the simplest way to get it added as a condition. As a matter of fact, it's the only way.
So it's too late for the official MAP program that planning and zoning usually uses.
Correct. Right. Well, the roadway in question is already included within the comp plan. So it's totally reasonable to identify that roadway during that comp plan, during the zone change process.
Yeah, I just saw something last week. That roadway is, I don't remember what the title of the page was, but that roadway was the only preferred project in Boyle County. You probably saw the same thing.
That's correct, yeah.
So that means that if it's a preferred project, it's going to happen last year or going to happen 5 to 7 years down the road?
It should, theoretically, it should happen as design and right-of-way is acquired. Design is completed. The state's budgeted $2.5 million for the design process and the environmental, and then right-of-way follows up shortly thereafter. This process, as a matter of timing, this process, by including the condition now, will certainly speed that up. The right-of-way portion of that phase of work will be much more efficient if you do this.
So this project in Boyle County is in the state's budget for 21, 22?
It's in the fiscal year that they are currently in now. I'm not sure which cycle that is for them. They have a design engineer being paid now to do the detailed design work.
And when did we find that out?
We've communicated that for some time. We've known for a couple of years now. When the last state budget was approved, which was January of 20, and we knew it was funded that winter. We knew it was going to be funded, and we've communicated that outwardly at every turn. So it's a known, which is why it's in the comp plan as an alignment that is in the comp plan. And
Okay, so if we have a hearing on the 12th of November, and we vote 5-0 to approve this zone change with this with this condition, how soon then can the developer get to go with the project?
we would anticipate having the second reading on the 22nd of November at the regular meeting. We would anticipate a quick meeting the following week to do a first reading of the ordinance, then have the second reading of the ordinance at the regular commission meeting on the 22nd. And then they would be able to proceed, which is within the 90-day window that we were given.
I'm looking at 7.4, and it looks like there's like 4 roads going through here. So,
It is, and the, for example, to be fully compliant, and I'm trying to get to that page, you would have to tie into, theoretically, it would have to tie into that industrial development already there. Graphically is the attempt at the depiction. There is right-of-way exiting, what is that, David? Going up the hill there. There's already right-of-way there to tie into that development. So there's a series network that is proposed there essentially. And so that we're trying to make sure that's considered properly.
oh, I printed it myself. Yeah, out of the comp plan. Okay.
Any
Did-
further? Well,
Did
let's
any
see.
of you watch the hearing?
Yes. Some
Yeah.
parts of it.
Yeah, I watched the hearing, and I know the applicant, went above and beyond to do geological studies, right? Traffic, So everything, I guess, on Josh's list, but you also had on your list to make known where the highway would go, and that was on your list of requests as well?
That was conveyed to me in an email the day before the planning commission meeting, 24th.
Oh, okay.
Steve, I had sent you some emails specifically
Yeah,
talking about
I
the road
reviewed
well
before I
before the
came
day
in here.
before.
Yeah,
It was
that
weeks,
24th is
couple
when
weeks
you-
before. More particularly, the road was in the comp plan, and the KYTC road was known for a long time.
Yeah,
So
that's-
I don't
that's
want
about 2 years
to
out.
diminish the idea that this is a new concept that we had never talked
It's
about
not a new
before.
concept. We
Right.
put the map in the planning commissioner's packet, but your specific comment why the developer didn't put the alignment on the master plan, I got on the 24th. Because we didn't get the master
Yes,
plan
and that's
until right before the meeting.
right, right. And that's what we were talking about in terms of.
The exhibit was in front of the planning commission, and they considered it along with
Right.
the flume and everything else.
I don't remember the proposed road being discussed in my review of the planning and zoning hearing, but
I think it was brief about the traffic study. Josh can elaborate on that. There was just a tad bit about that.
Yeah, we discussed the proposed road, and I think that I don't want to speak for the Planning and Zoning Commission at all, in any way, but I think we just didn't have a good idea where the alignment would be. So it was really difficult to phrase a condition that we can include that would allow that at the time. And I think in that setting, at that point, it was, we've had an opportunity to develop that over the past couple of months. And I know that, that makes it a difficult decision, and we have to work rapidly at this point to get it done before the 90-day window. But I think we've had an opportunity to not only discuss it with KYTC, but also discuss it with the property owner to make us all a little more comfortable with how this is going to work going forward. I just don't think we didn't have that opportunity at the time. We're working to Steve and I are trying to work together ahead of time on these zone changes so we avoid these kind of things. But I think this situation was one we weren't going to avoid this. I think this was going to happen in this timing no matter what we did at that point, because we just didn't have the communication and language in place for that condition that we do now. So I think we're there. If we want to include this condition, we're all going to have become comfortable with it, that we can do that if we go through with this hearing process.
Correct, and what Josh is, I mean, that's what we're trying to say again, and we'll say it again, the lapse in time between the planning and zoning hearing, what Steve suggested is that they didn't have enough detail to properly consider it, which then was shored up after that hearing, as the cabinet provided us in alignment just a couple weeks ago. Or not, it's not an alignment, it's really a alignment around a corridor.
And some of the planning commissioners did contact me before the hearing, and some of their concerns were, this is a state road project, and on the advice of our attorney, we didn't push for that condition because ultimately this is going to be a state of Kentucky's project, and we can't bind the state. It's a private property owner now, and the goal is, I guess, to get him to reserve a right-of-way. But at the same time, if we were making the developer build the road, or this was a city project, we feel we probably had more leverage to get a condition of this style. But the fact that this is Kentucky's project, and they're going to put that where they desire and ultimately get that property the way they get property, our attorney didn't advise us that we have such a condition, simply because it won't mean anything once the state acquires whatever they're going to acquire. Hopefully it lands in that corridor, but who knows? In this preliminary design, it could shift 50 foot or 100 foot in whatever direction.
So what do you need here, Mr. Coffey? You need a
Again,
motion?
yes. So staff, in speaking with the city attorney, the best path we saw forward was to simply reject the zone change recommendation from Planning and Zoning Commission, with the idea that we will move immediately to having a de novo hearing on the 12th of November.
Do you hear a motion?
Well, I'm disappointed the owner's not here. I've seen him show up to meetings, so I think there's a communication lag somewhere. I wish he was here to possibly speak. But, this road is very important, but it's unfortunate that he's not here. It's like
Well,
you're
and
missing part
I
of
would
the
like to
meeting.
confirm for you, we did meet,
Yeah.
or we did have a conference call with the applicant, and this was the acceptable path forward that they felt like, in that it accomplishes it can be done in the time frame that they were looking for.
So we're really talking about
Right.
20 days at the max?
Yes, November 22nd is when we would anticipate the second reading happening.
Okay. And the applicant agreed to what you wrote here?
The language was written by the applicant, not me.
Okay. And 5 to 7 years? Is that-
That's the one question we tossed
is in
around
a-
those.
Okay.
And that, so I put the 5 or 7 because at one time they said 7, at one time they said 5. And so we would want to discover that final number during the
Thank you
hearing.
for clearing that up.
Yeah.
Let me
They
ask
can't-
you a question, because as you all know, that's not the protocol. But I don't know what the legality is.
No, they can't pipe in by phone.
So the owner has.
No, hold on. Let me get clarity here.
Yeah. That's it. I mean, I don't know how you can hear them by phone. It's a special call meeting. They would have to have we would have to wire them into our sound, that kind of thing. From my understanding, that's not allowed.
I'm not following you. My question is,
So the meeting you're having is a special called meeting?
oh, yeah.
That's not the,
So the owner has an employee's funeral today, but he is on his phone and will do speakerphone if you allow it.
okay, and so that we can't do that because you're actually at a special call meeting?
Yeah.
So
And
it's just not, it's not something you can do now.
So you don't want to say something that nobody else can, right?
No, sir, I didn't say that. I'm saying that we can't use a telephone.
My,
That's up to the mayor, yeah, absolutely.
I'm asking
Yeah.
Mayor, can I speak to her?
Fine with me. Think everybody needs to be heard.
Thank you, brother.
but we will, we'll make this exception, certainly, sir.
Okay. All I want to say.
If you would, please, excuse me, if you will, come to the microphone and tell us who you are, sir.
You know who I am, Mike.
I know who you are, but tell everybody else.
Okay. I'm here to express my boss's opinion. The road was supposed to be a bypass for here. Now it's a connector road, okay? That's just a little bit of switcheroo. And nothing was brought up in planning and zoning. It passed unanimously, 8-0. Nobody was here to put in against it. And I don't know anybody that wants the connector road but except Earl Coffey. That's all I know. I see everybody because I'm a well-traveled man. I'm a dumb old country boy. But as you know, I know people and I talk to people.
Dumb as a fox, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm dumb as a fox, right? But nobody I know of is wanting this connector road on the most historic land in Ball County, okay? You know how historic the house is, so we're gonna put a road through the middle of it. Now, does that make much sense?
Well, the road's not through the middle of it.
Well,
and-
it's gonna be in the vicinity of the road
and
of the
I will
house.
take exception, it's been called a connector road since day one. So
Well,
I don't know where the bypass thing came in.
that's what I'm hearing.
Well, and let me give you.
And why do we have planning and zoning, sir? I'm talking, mister. You
Yes,
got
sir.
your chalk, I'm talking mine, okay?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay. I want to know why planning and zoning is here if they passed it unanimously, and then he can overrule it. He's only one man.
No, we can
No,
overrule
sir.
it. He's made a recommendation, we still have to decide if we want to
Well,
follow
I'm
it or
just asking,
not.
you know, why is planning and zoning got the power they have? You know, like I said, they passed it. Everybody was here. There was several people here for it. I can feel this building full of people that's against the road. Because I've talked to people. You know, he needs to realize everybody don't want the road. I mean, I don't even own no land no more. I sold my land to Francesco. I kicked the door open for the distillery for Ball County, personally, myself, because I believe in his project. He has great things for this county and this city, and we need to understand that. Not many people drives up from another state and says, I'm gonna build a $25 million facility here, you know, and now we want to put a road through it. It don't make good sense. There's a lot more important roads in this country, in this county, that we need to fix before we build this. You know, I just think that's my personal opinion, and I know that's my boss's opinion. I appreciate you letting me speak. I won't forget it. Thank you.
You're
Well,
welcome, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Mayor, if I could just make sure it's understood, the catalyst for the road was not an idea of one person. It was really born out of the 2014 urban area study by the Transportation Cabinet, where they evaluated traffic patterns and throughout the community. That report identified the road as a necessary transportation addition to the community, which takes pressure off the intersection of 4th and Main, in essence, and Main Street downtown. And so the catalyst for the road was that report ultimately, which is why the Transportation Cabinet funded it to the tune of a couple $1 million. And just to be clear, it's not something that is my personal agenda at all, but we would like to say that that was the recommendation of the Cabinet.
Anyone else while we've got the floor open?
My name is John Albright, and I'm going to take this off. I'm one of the property owners, one of the few that are along the corridor. Just a couple of things, I guess, that I wanted to bring up. In the 6-year road plan, there's only money for design. You go out past 2026, and there's no money for right-of-way, there's no money for utilities, and there's no money for construction. And I realized that initially, in the shift schedule, and shift is a scheduling, calculating type process that the state goes through to determine priorities on roads. And this project had an extremely low rating initially until someone gave it a boost. For it to be a boost, it has to be either from a mayor, a county judge, or a state official. So the boost got it up a little bit enough to where it could get money for design, but there's still not enough of a rating when you look at the 6-year road plan, which I have copies of, that show how it is on the priority list. It's probably not going to happen. Anytime soon at best. And I just think it's a shame to hold this gentleman hostage, so to speak, on a road that's may or may not be designed one way or the other to go into that area, and that's assuming that people want the project that are the property owners. And I know Pittman Creek, Kurt Singer's Bait, Midstate Recycling, Dawson Horkey, and us at Caldwell Stone, we don't want to see that road coming through, and it's going to disrupt our businesses. It'll make some businesses have to shut down and close. And to our thinking, we're better off going around and doing the original bypass, which was why the 150 intersection out there is the way it's set up, and then bring it around, kick on 52, and take it on over and connect with the connector, not bring a road that's going to come through and end up on the top of the hill there right in front of Green Acres with an intersection and a light for people to have to stop to get out. So, as I said, the proposed collector streets, this is a copy of it from the comprehensive plan. There's green lines everywhere. They're just willy-nilly wherever they want to. And so there's a bunch of them that were already drawn out in that 52 area. And I just think that the wise thing to do is to go ahead and approve the planning and zoning change. And then if that road ever comes to fruition, then they can deal with that separately. So, my thought. Thank you.
You're welcome. And I want to make it clear, we're trying to get to the same spot. We're trying to do it the right way, because you can't give an approval, because after the approval's done, you have no recourse. And we ask the same thing of subdivisions as we do this. And we're all just trying to get to the same spot. And I understand what Mr. Coffey's saying. We did not have any kind of specific alignment from the state. Now that we've got that, then we do this de novo hearing and we move on.
Correct,
Well, I
and the
see.
second reading would occur on the 22nd, and if you were to do it now anyway, you would probably have the second reading on the 22nd.
The thing that I think's unusual or kind of worrisome, and I guess it's just because, government works that way, and it looks like there would be a way to pass it, but invoke the thing that Steve was talking about. You pass it, but when the road comes through, you've got to, you can't develop a certain part of it or,
Yeah, a lot of times that's done around a final designed right-of-way, a final designed center line, and we don't have that, right? So you handle it in the comprehensive plan. So it's hard to say we need specifically 200 feet for the 2168 right-of-way is 180 feet-ish, 200 feet. And you don't have a precise spot, which was the reason planning and zoning chose not to consider it, I'm sure. But notwithstanding, we need to make sure that we're either going to consider it or not. Our suggestion is if you want to consider it, this is the language that the applicant agreed to consider it. The second reading will occur on November 22nd either way. So our recommendation is to include do the de novo hearing route. And there's no necessarily alternative to getting the condition on the zone change and having consideration now other than doing your own hearing.
So your recommendation is I'll use the word deny, because that's really what it is, deny the zone change at this point, but we're going to go ahead and set a date for the de novo.
Correct. Yep. Which is we're proposing, in order to meet the schedule, November 12th. Precise time to be determined, probably at 11 o'clock. It'd be a short meeting, probably less than an hour, to include the discussion here and present the previous evidence, and then put the commission in a position to make a decision around that evidence.
I've done about 4 de novo hearings in my 20-some years. You guys aren't denying the planning commission's and by the way, just for clarity, the de novo hearing is part of this process, just so everyone knows. Planning commission does recommendations, sends it to the city. As we said before, you guys have 3 options at this point, and this is more of a consensus discussion to give direction typically to Stephen Dexter or the city manager on what you do next. You either concur with the planning commission's recommendation, you can overturn the planning commission's recommendation with new findings, or you set aside the recommendation. You don't deny it. You're technically setting it aside to conduct a de novo hearing, which will be your own fact-finding hearing. So at this point, you're not voting it down. You're technically just setting it aside, and you're directing your staff to have a new hearing, and you guys become the planning commission. So the planning commission recommendation sits aside, assuming you guys act in the 90 days. If by chance you don't act in 90 days, the planning commission's recommendation still takes effect of law. So
You agree with that, Mr. Coffey?
Yeah, that's good enough.
Then we could
Thanks.
accept the recommendation to set this aside until November the 12th?
Set it aside and have a de novo hearing of your own.
I want to do whatever gets that done in the quickest amount of time. I would prefer to do that tonight, but I don't think that.
You have a minimum advertising time that.
Well, I know, but I mean,
Yeah.
I wish we could approve it as it is, but apparently that's not a.
Can I just say one more quick thing? So that distillery,
Identify
project
yourself,
is-
sir.
Identify yourself, sir.
Jason Cullen, magistrate for the 4th District, Bull County. That project is in the 4th District. It's very important. I think we talk about economic development. I think that's going to be a huge, huge economic development win for Bull County. But the one thing that I want to make sure that, we've said several times that the applicant's not allowed to speak. I don't think it's appropriate, and with all due respect, Earl, I don't think it's appropriate that for you to keep saying that he agreed to this, without him actually being here to say what he agreed to. So I think, you're kind of leading them in on something that we don't know technically what he agreed to unless he's allowed to speak here. So that's important. But I would hope that, it was approved in August, at the end of August. We're pretty much at 2 months right now from when it was.
We can't worry about that.
I
We're trying to
understand.
deal with the state of Kentucky and the transportation cabinet, and you're at their mercy when you deal with them.
Believe me, of anybody, I understand completely how it is with them. I just know that this owner has bent over backwards on most anything to try to get this project underway. Many other people would have left by now. But he is committed to this county and to this city. So that's all I ask, that and I appreciate Kevin's, desire to move this along as quickly as possible and show them that we do appreciate them being here. And I know this is a tough decision for y'all too, but.
No, I don't think it's a tough decision, because we're trying to get to the same place, but we're trying to do it right. We're trying to do it right for the owner. We're trying to do it right for the citizens.
Correct, I understand that. So, anyway, thank y'all.
Thanks, Jason.
That young man right there had his hand up a minute ago.
I'm sorry?
The young man sitting right there in the middle had his hand up. I don't know who he is, but did you want to speak?
Dan?
I said young man, I'm sorry.
He likes that.
Well, I want to hear from everybody, that's all.
Name is Dan Campbell, resident, City of Danville, taxpayer. Looking for the business and industry, obviously, in this city. My understanding, and I sit on the Board of Adjustments here in Danville, my understanding is that the city, evidently, the city engineering knew about this particular project, the road coming through more than 2 years ago. But it was never conveyed to anyone that I'm aware of until the last 2 months ago. And this bothers me. It's a sort of a secretive type, under the table type thing. We're trying to get away from that. We're looking for transparency. And these
Dan, I'm
people,
going to disagree with that because I know in my conversation with Francesco, we've talked about it.
it's my floor. Thank you. And what
But
I'm
it's my
saying,
meeting, sir, and I'm letting you speak.
it's my floor. You've given me that opportunity, let me do so.
I have given you that
Give me 3
opportunity.
minutes.
Thank you. And I just feel that this particular project has been stymied for a number of personal reasons. I've got some documentation I can present, but I haven't done it tonight because I don't want to do it yet. But it will be forthcoming if needed. And I really feel that the board tonight should approve this as is. And if there's things in the future with the State Highway Department, then I think it should be addressed at that point in time. And the other thing that, if you look at the schedule of events, they've appropriated the $2 million or plus for the design work, but everything else is not appropriated and may never be appropriated. One other thing, the map that they show with all the connector roads on that farm, Mr. Morgan, last week or last meeting, indicated that those roads don't mean anything. Well, why do they not mean anything if everything, this one does? I guess that's my concern. It should be relevant all the way through. Thank you.
Yes, sir. All right, with that, I'm going to close the floor for
Thank
any
you, sir.
further discussion.
To the audience or to us?
Pardon me?
You're going to close discussion to the audience, not to the commissioners, right?
No, commission always speaks. It's our meeting,
Okay.
so
All right,
I'm just closing the floor.
yeah. It's just something about 1695 Lancaster Road that's causing me again to lose some sleep. I don't know what it is, but it does. And I think it's a very worthwhile, very valuable project. I just hate to think about something that was passed 25th of August, and then we're looking to go to the 22nd of November to get the issues resolved. There's got to be some way we can avoid a developer waiting this long on the second phase of a project.
Well, this is a unique situation because we were dependent on the state of Kentucky. That's been the thing that's drug it.
Yeah, but we've been talking about this road for, like I said, a long time.
Yep.
And now it's come up in the middle of a project, and I don't know how we could have resolved this issue as an amendment to what planning and zoning had done before it came to the commission. Because now that it's in our hands, and I think it was the first or second meeting in September that the landowner was here. It was ready for us to have a discussion about this, and we didn't have a discussion, didn't have it on the agenda for whatever reason. So it's been going on. And I think we call ourselves a user-friendly community. This doesn't appear like a user-friendly community to me because of the time frame. That's where I sit with the issue.
Let me remind the commission, if you recall in our discussions several years back when we talked about this connector road, eventually extending it on through Ghost Pike, which is a very dangerous piece of road. I mean, this is what you call planning.
Yeah.
This is what you call planning.
Yeah.
And if 17 days makes a difference, then I think it's a wise 17 days. I mean, we're not holding up anything for 17 days, y'all. We're just trying to get the right planning for this community, for the transportation of this community, and the citizens. That's my feeling. So do you need a motion, sir?
Yes, sir.
Wait a minute, Mr. Hunter, did you suggest something other than a motion?
I think the city manager's saying, you all have to take some action to direct
Okay.
the next step, or you could do nothing. But typically, in this situation, the city commission would, direct the city attorney, prepare an ordinance to concur or overturn, or we want to have a
What
new
was the
hearing.
term you used, set aside?
Set aside or direct them to have, as the city manager saying, you guys are, if your goal is to have a new hearing, you would be making a motion to set that date and put the process into motion with advertising, adjacent property owner letters. You're conducting a new hearing in lieu of the planning commission's recommendation.
Correct.
And it has to be formalized so the staff would know
Right.
what to do next, because you basically going to become the P and Z and have to send letters, put out signs, add in the paper, et cetera.
So we need a motion to set November 12th as a de novo meeting.
Or a motion to concur with the,
Or a
P&Z
motion to
findings.
concur, whatever. I'm following staff's
no,
recommendation.
I understand, no,
Okay, I had one more question.
Yeah.
So the state is actually looking to at the west connector instead of the east connector on this picture.
No, the state is invested design dollars in the east connector. The west connector is entirely different.
I think she's referring to those two different routes on
Right, the two routes,
the 7-4
Oh.
shows 3 different north-south routes on one east
right.
and the other one west.
Yeah, we are talking about the line representing connectivity from the intersection of Ghost Pike, Stanford Road, Lancaster Road, to Lexington Road to the north.
Okay, that was my question.
Right.
Because if they didn't do that, they'd go further east to that connector.
Well,
But they want it there. The states has said they want this connection there, even with all of the sinkholes and
That,
all that.
you're trying to, so the idea of the transportation items identified in Figure 7.4 is to demonstrate connectivity within your community to existing transportation alignments and features. So moving the alignment that is shown to the east off Goggin doesn't connect to the bypass, for example. And so what they're taking advantage of is the alignment of Ghost Pike that's existing that we have asked to be improved for a long time as a community. With this possibility of connecting it straight to Lexington Avenue, the urban area study described it as an alternative to the Clark's Run Bridge down at 3rd and 4th to the south of us. So you have, in essence, one route south that is over Clark's Run. And so this provides a viable alternative for economic interconnectivity between the north side of Danville and the south side. And so
Thank you. Thanks.
it has a significant benefit. It's not a bypass. It's an alternative transportation corridor. Hence connector, I guess.
it's a road, whatever you go.
Hence a road.
And that's not just between the developer and the state. That's something that needs to be on its own change.
But when Figure 7.4 was drawn, the idea of that road was present and existed. So therefore, it made it to this. So yeah,
Okay.
now we are acknowledging in our comp plan that it is something we will consider when properties along that route develop. The design wasn't funded in the 6-year plan when it made it to the state's budget. So I would, in the same way, we don't want to assume that it would never get built. You don't want, or assume that it will get built. We don't want to assume that will never get built either. I think that the transportation cabinet in the state can do what they want with their money as they see fit, and we just want to acknowledge that it wasn't in the 6-year plan necessarily whenever it was funded for design.
So really what we're saying here is nobody's against the road. Is that a fair assumption? Am I understanding that?
No, no one is against the development, I
So
think.
we're just trying to do things in a sequence that works for everybody. Is that a fair statement?
You're trying to get all things considered in their time, right, as best you can.
Seems like there ought to be easier, simpler way when things like this come up, but
That's why you get paid the big bucks, Kevin.
you can have my 50 cents an hour if you want.
But we're all very excited about this project.
Absolutely.
And want to all work together
Sure.
and do this quickly, whatever the best is for the community, so.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt that we all want this to happen. But it has to be done in a certain order to ensure that it does happen this way. That's where the deal is.
Somebody needs to make a motion.
Waiting for a motion.
Make it whatever you want it for. Mr. Mayor, can we have, when the time comes, can we have a voice vote?
Sure.
Okay. Well, just to get us off the fence, I'm going to make a motion that we accept P and Z's recommendation for the zone change.
We have a motion. Do I hear a second?
Yes. I
A
second it.
motion is second. We're in discussion.
We haven't done that yet.
Mr. Coffey, let me ask this question. Assuming the motion passes, what's the downside of that?
It makes it more difficult to get the road built, quite frankly. The reason you have planning and zoning is to do conditions like this when property is developed. When you're going from an ag zone to a light industrial zone, that's when you want, your comp plan indicates that you will consider things like that when you go through that process. And so that's the bottom line. That's simply put.
Does that change the complexion as to, do you want a road there or don't you?
I don't know that it weighs that decision out. I think your comp plan is an expression of what proposed roadways make sense. It was guided by a study that the Transportation Cabinet invested public dollars in and arrived at a conclusion that that alignment was necessary to the extent that they are currently funding the design of that with tax dollars of a couple $1 million. And so we have to decide what our path is.
Well, my thinking is that if this is passed and the owners are aware of this road, the possibility of this road, I would think he'd be a wise man. He's not gonna go out there and build 4 or 5, whatever, on the site where the road's gonna run supposedly, but if it takes 5 or 6 years for that to happen, a lot of development could take place on this property that cause some issues, but I don't know. It's sad that we've come 90 days, almost 90 days to this point.
If you look on page 5, the illustrative site plan, if the site plan is developed exactly in the way that is shown, I think that's page 8, I'm sorry, it's labeled as page 5. it's an illustrative site plan. If the roadway, as indicated by the state, is to the left as you're looking at that color image of that pond, there are 4 rick houses there. So for the state, if this were fully done without, as shown, then the state, in order to build the road, would have to relocate those 4 rick houses, or possibly 3 of them.
And the chances of that are?
That's up to the state to decide. Right.
But it becomes an obstacle.
It becomes an expensive obstacle.
And illustrative site plan, that's a concept plan, right? Is that the other word for it?
That is their master plan that was submitted,
Master plan, which is flexible.
which is just
A
a
flexible
point in
idea,
time
okay.
that, that's the 4th one I think we've seen from the architect.
Right,
The
okay.
development plan is the actual conditions. And then, as you know, moving forward, there'd be site plans and building permits and zoning permits, which I guess is one way to control growth and at different layers past the zone change. I mean, another thing to note in this corridor, we have this developer that's doing a zone change, so obviously this is an opportunity to capture a right-of-way corridor on behalf of the state. But there's other property owners that aren't part of the zone change. Well, we'll have to control that corridor, like to the north, through development plans. If it's already zoned, for example, or, you know.
But we just got to talk
Understand.
about this.
I understand. But there's ways to make sure buildings don't land in the way between now and the road construction.
And that's what we're trying to accomplish tonight.
And frankly, the simplest way is to do the de novo hearing and pass the second reading, assuming you agree with the recommendation from planning and zoning, the exception of this condition on the 22nd, like you will anyway, either way you go.
I'm not trying to be argumentative or,
I don't know.
it seems like that would be more difficult than doing the, the site plan and having that review done. I don't know, I've never
I'm
done.
not following you.
Well, if like Steve said, we have a site plan review or whatever that next document is, that some control can be had there to keep any building out of the proposed right-of-way for the new road. And it seems like that would be easier than doing a whole de novo, but I don't know the legalities, that's just a,
The
to
only
me, that
thing.
just seems simpler, I guess.
Correct. Well,
Right.
the only thing that is construed as binding is a condition on the zone change.
Let me tell you what simple is. Simple is give it 17 days, and then everybody comes out with everything they want. In 17 days is not going to change, because for me, we're trying to satisfy a project, but you potentially do it at the long-term benefit of the community. Because this is kind of a one shot to get that corridor through there. And I know it was referenced earlier to do the bypass. I think, Earl, when that was explained to us, they would have to build 5 bridges in order to do that bypass. And they're not going to build 5 bridges. They won't see it in my lifetime or my kids' lifetime or my grandkids' lifetime.
Yeah, and as I said before, my primary concern is to get it done as quickly and as cheaply as possible for the applicant.
And my way is to look at it, to get it done as quickly as possible for both the applicant and the citizens.
Well, yeah, absolutely, we have to,
That's the way I see it. 17 days.
I guess in 17 days or the 12th, staff would then recommend to the applicant that they redo their design plan? Since it's sitting right there, it's like you're saying, in the middle of where the road's gonna go?
They will provide Exhibit A, which will highlight the area they suspect for the alignment. The last paragraph we provided in that memo was further staff would would like to confirm for the applicant that we would support the applicant. What we were talking about supporting, if you go back to that illustrative site plan, is that we suggest that the roadway should go west of the pond at the minimum and shouldn't encroach on into the property. Certainly, we think that would be I would construe that as a straying of the alignment into the property unnecessarily. And so what we have told the applicant is that certainly we would participate with them, with the transportation cabinet, to work towards the alignment being suitable for the development. And so therefore, they are drafting Exhibit A for use during the hearing, and certainly we anticipate that being better for you to imagine the alignment and the condition will make more sense when they have that drawn.
Is the applicant in agreement with this?
An email exchange we had with the applicant, the description, the text that I provided in my memo came from the applicant's attorney.
In agreement with this?
That is correct.
Okay.
Right. Now, obviously, we would be remiss if we didn't suggest that the applicant ask, and certainly it would be their preference to proceed tonight without any condition, but notwithstanding, rather than denying or rather than doing something different, they would accept the de novo hearing as an alternative. And certainly, and that's the preference that staff has as we've walked through it with the city attorney and then others.
And the de novo hearing has to be done, it has to be completed a second reading within the original 90 days.
That is correct. Yep.
How easy is it?
You ready for a vote?
Yes, I'm ready for a vote.
Mr. Atkins?
So the motion is to accept the zone change from planning and zoning, correct?
That is the motion.
Okay.
And Commissioner Cardle has requested a
Roll call vote.
roll call vote, yeah.
Commissioner Cottle,
Yes.
Mayor Paris,
No.
Commissioner Holland,
Yes.
Commissioner Atkins.
Yes.
Item 5 is the second reading of ordinance number 1980, and that is the creation of the ML King Celebration Committee. You want to read the ordinance, please, ma'am?
This is the second reading of ordinance number 1980, an ordinance establishing the Martin Luther King Jr. Day Celebration Committee in the City of Danville Code of Ordinances in Chapter 2 Administration, Article 5 Boards, Commissions, and Agencies as Division 7 therein.
Do I hear a motion for the second reading?
Move for approval of second reading.
Thank you, Commissioner Cardle. Is there a second?
Second?
Mr. Atkins, thank you. Discussion? Seeing none, call the question. Roll call, please.
Mayor Paris.
Yes.
Commissioner Holland,
Yes.
Commissioner Atkins,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Cottle.
Yes.
We are in the city manager report.
Thank you, Mayor Commissioners. Wanted to point out that we will have a first quarter budget report at the next meeting. We, because of our conversion to Paylocity, which is your outsourced payroll, we want to be cautious rather than manually entering in the payroll data into our general ledger. We want that to be automated to eliminate mistakes, so therefore, the report won't be done. We believe we will have it at the next meeting. If nothing else, we'll provide you a revenue report at the next meeting and talk about the capital projects, et cetera. The dogs discussion that we had at the last meeting, we are asking you to maintain that on the table, but we want to make sure we're clear that we would ask you and hope to be in a position that you can bring it off the table at the next commission meeting in 2 weeks.
When Commissioner Terry's back.
That is correct, yeah. We would like to say and give credit to Josh and Evan Teague at Parks and Recreation and all the Parks and Rec staff. We had a very successful interaction with the Bourbon Chase as it went through town last weekend. We had just an unbelievable amount of participants that stationed in Millennium Park in the middle of the night. Unless you were out, you really didn't see it. But Millennium Park was wall-to-wall vans from the gate to the softball complex. Every parking lot was full of just people. And it was an impressive sight about midnight. We also had the event pass through downtown at Wisger. There was events downtown. I know there's been an article in the newspaper talking about it, and certainly we want to just give the police, fire, everybody, Public Works did work, and again, Parks and Recreation, we want to give those folks credit for their hard work in organizing and participating with that race event. We've had a series of videos as a test of some of you may have seen those on social media. We've had really, really good response to those, and we will continue to do that as a form of communication outwardly as we align ourselves with the newsletter concept, which we've called it a news card, where we talk about the stories and talk about links, and that's going to be easier to publish than a paper newsletter that we'll mail. We'll mail that flashcard and highlight appropriate information with events coming on that. So hopefully you see the videos. If you're not, check them out on Facebook. And they are the beginning of our outward communication of how we want to transition into that. Two, when we're talking about airport annexation, which is a new subject, we want to point out that we've met with quite a few people, including tenants of the airfield. We've met with members of some individual members of the airport board. We've met with airport staff. And at this time, we have identified what we believe are a majority of the questions from the representatives there. And what we'd like to do is have a meeting. One of the airport board members will be in town the 28th. And so we are asking, can we meet with the airport board at this environment with the full city commission, where we will talk about our proposed answers to those questions, which would be akin to a financial incentive policy to the airport as it is annexed into the city. So in much the same way you're talking to an industry, we're talking to the airport, and we want to treat it like that. So we would like you to consider having some type of an official policy as that discussion moves forward. So for example, the real tax on airplanes, we want to talk about that and see what your all's reaction is to the information that we've gathered. And so my question to you, I guess, is can you all meet on the 28th at 11 a.m., which is this Thursday at 11? Be about an hour meeting for us to present the information and get out of there. And it is a little quick, but we're asking to confirm that strictly because we believe we can get a majority of the airport board present.
I will not be able to. I'm picking up a Nobel Prize overseas, but no, actually, we're going on vacation earlier that day, so I won't be here.
Yeah, and so if that doesn't work out, we can seek an alternative time, but certainly we would like the majority of you here, and we wouldn't want to go forward with just three. And so if you can't be here, then that's okay.
Wait. I'm available because it's at 11 o'clock.
Well, you can come on.
Thursday, what
Yeah.
time?
At 11. About an hour and a half. I'm sure you all will get into to discussion, so I'm saying an hour, but I would lean towards hour and a half because you all will probably want to interact some.
She can't do it.
Okay.
Can you do it?
Yeah, I just have to be gone at 1, before
Yeah.
1.
Okay, well, we'll pursue that, and certainly we'll publish any
Yeah, I have to be
information.
gone by noon.
We can present
That would
our
be better
information
for me,
inside of that
too.
hour, and you would have
1
some room
hour.
for discussion. The presentation itself could be quick. And it would, like I said, it would give a chance for all the airport board members to attend. And if we want to have another meeting, you can do that as well.
What else?
That's all I have on my list, unless you all have questions for me.
Questions? Seeing none, we'll move into hear the public's opportunity to address anything that's not been on tonight's agenda. Seeing none, we'll move right along to commissioner comments.
I have a comment. It was Extra Mile Day, and I always, think Danville just has such a great community of volunteers that go the extra mile, and that's what makes, our community great. Cemetery Committee, Planning and Zoning, DAHB, Parks and Rec Board. I probably shouldn't name some, because I might leave some out, but incredible volunteers that just give so much time. Beautification, I can't believe all the time they give, and that's, keeps Danville beautiful. So anyway, thank you to our volunteers on our committees that go the extra mile. You're very appreciated. So,
Thank you.
and in our budget.
Thank you.
We'll second that.
And going along with that, I would like to thank the students at Center College. They hosted the Special Olympics flag football tournament this past weekend. It got some airtime on the news, which was cool. And I'm frequently reminded how lucky we are to have them as a citizen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anything else?
Well, I was going to highlight the bourbon chase as well. I thought that was really a biggie for our town. But I have to confess, I was not at Millennium Park at midnight. But what I saw was really impressive. And then we just finished the 8th annual Frank H. Walker Literary Festival was held last week. Frank did 4 virtual presentations, 2 to the city middle school and high school, and 2 to one each to city and high school and middle school, and then he did 1 for Boyle County Middle School and for Boyle County High School. And then Thursday he did 2 impromptu virtual presentations with middle school kids, just 1 class at each middle school. So there was some middle school kids actually got to spend time twice with Frank. And then Thursday night, he did a virtual / in-person presentation where we recognized all the K-12 poetry contest winners. And then they read their poetry. And then Frank did a reading Thursday night at Denville High School. And then a shout out to CCHR, who continues to co-sponsor this event. And a shout out to the Danville City Schools Diversity Committee, who prepared the refreshments for the young at heart that was present last Thursday night, provided a little repast. So it was really a great week of literature. I guess the highlight for me is that we had Miss Ruby Bridges up here in Denville last Thursday morning that went to Tolliver Elementary School. And then I want to remind the commission and the staff about our Klc Homelessness Training that is scheduled for November the 9th, and it's an all-day training session, but it's all virtual. But I want to remind everybody that a few of us have signed up for it.
Anything else? Move right along into financial. Chair will entertain a motion for the payment of the bills.
So moved, paying of the October 26 bill list in the amount of $263,377.05.
Thank you, Commissioner Atkins. Is there a second?
Second?
Thank you, Commissioner Cottle. Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Whoa.
Aye.
Aye.
He went quick, didn't he? Aye.
Item 8 is the first reading of ordinance number 1981. This is a budget amendment, and I'm going to ask our city clerk to read that, please.
This is the first reading of ordinance number 1981, an amendment to the 2021-2022 city budget, an ordinance amending a portion of ordinance number 1969, which established the City of Danville, Kentucky annual budget for the fiscal year 7/1/2021 through 6/30/2022 by appropriating funds for the operation of city government.
Chair will entertain a motion for the first reading.
I move for approval of first reading of ordinance 1981.
Thanks, Commissioner Cottle. Is there a second?
Second?
Thank you, Mr. Holland. We're in discussion. Mr. Coffey, anything you want to add to this?
No, sir, it's pretty straightforward. It's just identifying that we'll be a pass-through as a recipient to the grant into our budget
Okay.
and the
thanks.
expenditure of the grant.
Any further questions, comments? Seeing none, Chair, call the question. All in favor of the motion? I'm sorry, Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Holland,
Yes.
Commissioner Atkins.
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Cottle,
Yes.
Mayor Paris.
Yes. Item 9 is resolution number 2021-10-25-01. This is a plat approval for 79 Tuggle Road. Mr. Carrier, talk to us.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is in regards to the existing property where we're building the new water tower on Perryville Road, just on the south side of Perryville Road. And the goal of this particular exercise is to create track number 1, which we will be separating out of the existing parent track. That'll be a creation of 3.983 acres for the goal in the future of declaring this as surplus in a future meeting and recouping those funds and investments for the taxpayer in the future.
Do I hear a motion for the resolution?
I'll move to approve resolution 2021-10-2501.
Thank you, Commissioner Atkins. Second?
Second?
Thank you, Commissioner Holland. Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Opposed, like sign. Motion will carry. Item 10 is Resolution 2021-10-25-02. This is a chemical bid approval. Continue, Mr. Carrier.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is in relation to, pretty straightforward, our annual assessment of chemical costs. Chemical costs for the water treatment plant and the wastewater plant are pretty significant on an annual basis. And this is just our annual assessment of those costs in efforts to monitor the market and adjust to the market as needed.
Do you hear a motion?
I'll move for approval of 2021-10-2502 as presented.
Commissioner Atkins, is there a second?
Second?
Commissioner Holland, thank you. Discussion?
Yeah, all of them went up except for one, I think.
Yeah, we did have one that actually went down, which is always nice to see.
Yeah.
But, you know, obviously the general trend is for everything to migrate up. So we were expecting some increases.
Any further discussion? Chair, call the question. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Item 11 is the sludge disposal RFP approval. Mr. Carrier, you again.
Thank you, sir. This is informational background for you and the commission. This is in regards to the city's intent to provide RFPs in investigating cost-saving methodologies for the transport and disposal of dewatered solids generated by the wastewater treatment plant process. This is an operational exercise, and we're looking at ways to look at market availability again and looking at avenues of reducing costs.
Okay, you just need a motion for the acceptance of the resolution. Is that correct?
Correct.
Do I hear such motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Atkins. Is there a second?
Second?
Commissioner Holland, thank you. Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Item 12 is resolution number 2021-10-25-04. This is the lagoon cleanout RFP approval. Mr. Carrier, continue.
Thank you, sir. This is in regards to the city's wastewater treatment plant and includes a large lagoon that allows the, lack of a better term, the solids to settle out over time as the effluent comes into the wastewater treatment plant process. They've accumulated to an extent that is reducing capacity and reducing our peak flow attenuation. So the intent of this RFP is to investigate costs relative to removing those solids and dewatering them and transporting them to an approved landfill.
Do you hear a motion?
So moved for the passage of 2021-10-2504 and to identify that this is where Kevin Cottle will spend his vacation.
We have a motion. Do I hear a second?
Yeah, I'm gonna,
Is there a second? Thank you,
Second.
Commissioner Cottle. All in favor, any discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign.
You didn't invite me to go with you, I appreciate that.
Item 13 is resolution number 2021-10-25-05. This is a surplusing of a rescue truck. Mr. Simpson, welcome.
Just like to ask the commission for permission to move the 1991 rescue truck into surplus. It's no longer a viable piece of equipment for our staff. And like
Do we
to
hear a
move it into
motion?
surplus.
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Hollins. Is there a second?
second.
Commissioner Cottle, thank you. Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Item 14, Resolution 2021-10-25-06. This is a Kentucky Fire Commission training prop grant acceptance. Continue, Mr. Simpson. In fact, you got the next 5. So
Yes, sir. And we've been awarded the King prop. It's a value of $23,650 that we'll use in a training platform for our firefighters and staff.
Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Motion is made. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Holland. Discussion?
No match?
No, sir, it's all free money.
Any further discussion?
Can.
Chair called question. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Item 15 is resolution number 2021-10-25-07. This is a grant acceptance from Norfolk Southern. Mr. Simpson.
I've been awarded the Norfolk Southern Community Grant value of $3,000. Ask that commission move to accept it.
Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
Second. Yes, sir.
Mr. Cardle, thank you. Discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign.
Hey, Chief, can you find me any money?
Yes, sir, we'll try.
All right. Yes, sir.
Item
We've been
6.
we've been really fortunate.
Item 16 is resolution number 2021-10-25-08. This is for Turnout gear grant application. I think we do this every year, don't we, Chief?
Yes, sir, this is a recurring grant. It's by the Kentucky Fire Commission for a value of $10,000. We use to buy turnout gear for our firefighters.
Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Atkins. Second.
Second.
Commissioner Holland, thank you. Discussion? Chair called question. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Item 17 is resolution number 2021-10-25-09. This is a grant application for thermal imaging camera. Continue, sir.
Just ask the commission to approve us for applying for this grant, a value of $3,200 for a thermal imaging camera for a fire truck.
Excellent. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Atkins. Second.
Second.
Mr. Cardle, thank you. Discussion?
How many do we have of these?
And all of our trucks have
They all-
thermal imaging, but they're only, but you want to get the best upgrade equipment if you can, so that's what we try to do. And we don't get rid of those, we pass them down usually, or,
I was just curious. I didn't know.
and a lot of times those are pretty abused as well. Once you go in structure fires and drag them around, and they tear up pretty easily.
Yeah, makes sense.
Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, Chair will call the question. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Item 18 is resolution number 2021-10-25-10. This is a gear washer grant application. You keep this money coming up, buddy.
Yes, sir. This is the application for the gear washer for the new fire station. It's a $10,000 value.
Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Motion is made. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, Chair will call the question. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Do we have need for executive session?
Yes, sir, personnel.
Chair will entertain a motion to move to executive session for personnel.
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Atkins. Is there a second?
Second.
We can do that.
And Commissioner Holland. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign.
I'm not supposed to do that, am I?
I don't think we can do that.
Don't
We'll
tell
go at it
Terry on
again.
me.
All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We were in executive session. Can we move back into regular session?
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Atkins. Is there a second? Commissioner Holland, thank you. City Manager?
Thank you, Mayor Commissioner. Staff is, got a couple of personnel proposals. First, we'd like to ask that you accept the resignation of James Norris from the position of telecommunicator effective 10/16.
Do you hear a motion?
So moved.
Motion
Second.
made and seconded in tandem. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Continue, please.
Staff is recommending the hiring of Hobie Daugherty to the position of certified police officer.
Do you hear a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, sir. Do I hear a second?
Second?
Thank you, ma'am. Discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Continue.
Staff recommends the the promotion of Devin Mason to the position of fire lieutenant.
Do you hear a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
Second?
Thank you, ma'am. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Continue, sir.
Thank you. Staff is recommending the promotion of Will Ellis to the promotion of fire lieutenant, to the position of fire lieutenant.
Motion, please.
So moved.
Thank you, sir. Second?
Second?
Thank you, ma'am. Discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Continue, sir.
Staff is recommending the promotion of Blake Sexton to the position of fire lieutenant.
Do you hear a motion?
So moved?
Motion made and second. Do I hear a
Second.
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 Thank you, sir. All discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. That completes our agenda for the evening. Do you hear a motion to adjourn?
I'll move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Have a good evening.